Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to another premiere draft of Pioneer Masters. Without further ado, let's get into the pack one, pick one here. Pretty weak pack all around. There's a couple fine options. Hornet Nest is okay. In the right matchup, it's going to be absurd. If your opponent is all just creatures on the ground and damage-based removal like a green-red deck, they are going to hate to see this card on your board. But if you're playing against blue-white, it does literally nothing. If you're playing against like a big grindy control deck, then it's just okay. It's going to draw a removal spell out of them before they attack into it. So really dependent on the matchup. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's meaningless, which is why I think it's only just solid. Like these solid uncommons like Dreadhound or Zephyr Winder. Strong card for blue-white flyers, strong card for a black mill deck, usually self-mill. But I'm just going to go for the Hornet Nest there. It's the most interesting card, and I think they're all pretty equally powerful. This is the least consistent of them, but potentially the most explosive. For pick two, speaking of inconsistent cards, Chromanticore, you have to get the full 5 color to get this thing bestowed or cast, but if you do, Flying, First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink is a pretty unbeatable combination of keyword abilities. So ideally you bestow this onto literally anything and you turn that into a game-winning threat. The reason you want to do that is because this doesn't give hexproof or indestructible or anything like that. So if you just hardcast this, your opponent can just spend a 1-for-1 removal spell, kill it, and you're crying. But if you bestow this onto something, they're going to have to kill your bestowed creature and then kill your Chromanticore still to actually get through and win the game. So I think this card is actually a really strong reason to try to be 5 color, like the 5 color Gates deck, and as such, I am going to take it and potentially start taking some Gates real highly here, trying to go towards that 5 color deck. Pick 3, now we have Experiment 1, which I think is pretty absurd. I've only played it once or twice, but each time it was incredible. We got this up to like a 4/4, a 5/5 sometimes, which is obviously busted for only 1 mana, so huge fan of Experiment 1. I also like Tassiger, but I haven't been insanely impressed with him, where that 4 mana ability just never seemed relevant enough to activate it, because if you're going to be playing this, you're probably in like a green-black or blue-black self-mill deck, where your opponent is just going to choose something pretty meaningless from your grave the majority of the time because your grave's going to be so full of nonsense. So I don't know. It felt like just the 6 mana 5/5 delve card, like very equivalent to that. So I'm just going to take Experiment 1. It's the card that I've had better experiences with after playing with both of them. Pick number 4. Wild Slash for really efficient removal seems great. That looks perfectly reasonable here. And the alternative, of course, the Boros Guildgate or the Courier's Briefcase. Might take a green Guildgate over the Wild Slash, because I think those are the most important guild gates. Green gives us multiple pieces of fixing in this format, like Courier's Briefcase, and the cards that can pull a gate out of your deck. So those are pretty important guild gates towards hitting Chromanticore, but Boros Guild Gate, not the most important until you get multiple cards in your deck that specifically get better for the number of gates that you have. The number. Pick 5, we have Selesnya Charm. Pretty solid removal if we go Naya. It's also Boulder Salvo and Scab Clan Berserker for sticking red. Scab Clan Berserker is actually pretty threatening. If you manage to just haste it out, hit your opponent, get that Renown trigger immediately. Like with the Renown trigger, this card's great. 3/3 that shoots your opponent for 2 whenever they cast a spell. If you can't get in, like they just have a 2 mana 2/2 on board and then you try to play this, then it's quite weak. So it's a very coin flippy high variance card, similar to Hornet Nest. And it's only going to be good if we are much less than 5 colors, because it needs double red on turn 3. Really hard to do in a 5 color deck. So it feels pretty unlikely that's going to be great, unless we go specifically Gruul aggro and just drop the Chromanticore, which is possible if we don't see any other good multicolored payoffs. I don't know. Think I'm still just going to go for a good removal spell here over the Berserker. I'm going to actually take Silk Wrap over Selesnya Charm because it's technically a little less mana intensive. Only needing 1 mana of a specific color. You can go white and 1 off on this, which is going to be good. I think less because we're not likely to have green mana, and more because it's possible we'll be in a position where we have like 1 or 2 green sources on like turn 5 or 6 and we want to like cast a couple green spells and Silk Wrap in the same turn. Because that we couldn't do with Selesnya Charm. Anyways, pick 6, another pretty mediocre pack. I mean, if we're going Gruul Aggro Audacity, it would be fine. But if we're going just 5-color control nonsense, Archaeologist is fine. I don't know. Archaeologist doesn't actually look that great in this deck, even if we go 5-color. So actually lean back towards green and just take Audacity. Throwing an Audacity on an Experiment 1 can make a real big threat real quick. Pick 7, not much here. Sky Knight's my favorite card by a lot, but we're very far away from the blue-white Flyers deck. Actually, Anchor to the Aether has been pretty impressive as well. I don't know, these green cards might go plenty late. I mean, Audacity is a common. Yeah, we'll see a lot more Audacities than Anchors. As you can see, case in point. Pick 8, now Dinrova Horror. Excellent 6-drop for a more controlling deck, but only really going to get played if we go 5-color here or if we move to some weird like blue-black control. It is technically early enough in the draft. We don't have to be green-based. We're just more likely that than anything else. I mean, Dinrova Horror is my favorite card here. It's super, super nice. The Treasure Cruise is good too, but I love 2-for-1 creatures like this that are like, here's my big threat and my removal spell at the same time. It's always a very good deal, so I'll take the Dinrova Horror. It's like the budget Chromanticore. Pick 9. Courier's Briefcase is still here. The gate is gone. We could take Briefcase, that would be okay. Or we could take Zephyr Winder and start pushing more blue towards blue-black or blue-white. Based on what we've been getting past here, we got a really late Dinrova Horror, and we also saw a decently late Liev Sky Knight towards blue-white Flyers. So I feel like Zephyr Winder is going to be nice in blue-black or blue-white. So having that potential backup plan to go towards seems good. And there we go, another Zephyr Winder. Maybe we are going to pivot pretty hard here off the Chromanticore. Again, just judging by what we've been past, Sky Knight into Dinrova Horror 2 picks in a row. That was pick 8 and pick 9, and those are both pretty high pickups for me. I'm not a huge fan of any of these cards. 6 mana has so much to bestow. There's just a 2 mana 1/1 unblockable, which isn't great. Mizium Skin's pretty narrow. It can be good in the right spot, though, so I think I'd still take it. But it might be one of the first cuts. Pick 12, Ingenious Scab is a solid blue card. It's like one of the only cards we've seen that's still good this late. Although Evolving Wild is way more flexible. Scab's just like decent filler. It's not above that filler level. Yeah. We'll take Evolving Wilds because it just definitely makes the cut. Filler blue creature, filler white removal spell. We take the filler blue creature because we're way deeper into that color. And then some nonsense to wrap up the pack. Pack 2, pick 1. We open a blue-white flyer. It's a really fun flyer. So it's like a 6 mana 4/4 flyer. Whenever it damages your opponent, draw a card and untap all your permanents. Pretty much. It doesn't get to attack twice. Lets the rest of your board do it, maybe. 6 mana 4/4, pretty small stats. If they deal with it, doesn't do anything, and it's summoning sickness as well. We are potentially closer to blue-black because Dinrova Horror is so good, and I really like Possess Scab too. Metamine might be a tiny bit better, but I wouldn't be surprised if Possess Scab is actually just a better card in a vacuum as well, just because it gets all of its value just right when it enters, instead of having to stick around. And it is pretty great value. So again, I'm not 100% confident on that pick, but we're definitely closer to Dimir than Azorius anyway, so I think it plays fine. Pack 2, pick 2. Now we have the Tall Crop Skirmisher, a nice way to slow down the more aggressive decks while you play your flyers and set up your 2-for-1s in the late game. I like that. I also like this Dimir Guildgate, obviously. And if we go the white direction, Sky Knight and Triplicate Spirits are really nice, aggressively costed cards, and then the Metamai is a fun finisher. Another Metamai here, but again, locking a little more deeper towards Dimir. I do have 1 Silk Wrap, though, so I'd have 2 cards towards Azorius. Take a Lev Sky Knight. Maybe we can go, like, full Esper here. Pick 3. I do not like any of these cards. I do like Hero in Boros and Selesnya. I don't think we're a Hero deck, though. Looks pretty unlikely. Yeah, so just like compulsory rest here, mediocre white removal. If we go white, probably the thing. It could be the Gruul Guildgate. Still leave the tiniest sliver of hope towards the 5-color deck, but I think it's a little bit contested. Okay, take compulsory. Oh no. One of the best rares in the set? Pia and Kieran Nalar. 4 mana for a 2/2 and 2/1/1 flyers, and you can sack them to do 2 to any target. Pia and Kieran are bonkers good. And there's nothing good for blue-white flyers anyway. There's a solid card for blue-black with the Gurmag Angler. Pia and Kieran are nasty, and that's pick 4 here. Shoot. That throws a wrench into the works a little bit. Because now I really want to play red. To the point where I probably play these slide runners, because we've got a Pia and a Wild Slash towards it. Whew. There's a Gate Colossus, pick 5. Back on 5-color nonsense. I've drafted 0 gates and 0 fixing for it, though. Gate Colossus is the best card here by a lot. Gearcrafter is going to be great in any red deck. Azorius Guildgate is going to be fantastic if we go 5-color. Gearcrafter or Guildgate feel like the picks. I like being able to maybe just still do a streamlined, maybe like 3-color deck here, like Grixis or something. Play all these nice aggressive blue flyers. Because I've got a good like aggressive curve here into the Pia and Kieran if I can just be 2 or 3 colors instead of 5. Really want that option open. There we go. Oh, rewarded. Murmuring Mystic. Oh, the draft is just free now with how open blue is. Illusory Angel. Kind of hard to cast, but pretty good. Clutch is pretty good. Gust of Wind's really good with a flyer on board. Actually, I think I go Gust here for that efficiency of that bounce. There's an Essence Scatter over Consider or Slide Runner. We want to up that instant sorcery count for our excellent Murmuring Mystic now. Wild Slash, pick 10? Yeah, these are the open colors. We'll take Wild Slash. But Heel Cutter would be really sweet in this deck too, because we're getting pretty aggressive. Counterflux could be okay. I mean, it's just a really hard to cast counter spell. Skirmisher could be okay. Wow. I don't think I'm playing the super hard to cast counter. We'll just take a Slide Runner. Rimrock Knight. Actually, another Mizium Skin's fine, but this also triggers our instant sorcery matter stuff. It triggers our Murmuring Mystic and is a good aggressive creature at the same time. It's just really good here. And Epic Experiments, even if you are exactly as it, just sucks. I had a deck that was like 15 plus instants and sorceries, and I still didn't want to Epic Experiment in it. So I just don't think the card is good. Boulder Salvo is. Rapid Hybridization is not. Scourge of Valkus? Sure. Give me that top-end flyer. I mean, even a Scatter to the Winds is quite reasonable. This is way better than Counterflux. It's Counterflux. It's a 3-mana counterspell. It's easier to cast than Counterflux, and the flexibility of this card is so much better. You are way more likely to want to get a 3/3 encounter spell than want to counter 2 spells at once. So Scatter to the Winds is actually really good. It might be worth taking over Scourge of Valkus. But I'm just going to make sure we've really got the top end finishers and scoop that up and then now get all the rest of the interaction. Here's a Monastery Swift Spear that looks great in blue-red. This was a fun draft. Speculated a ton of different directions and still managed to land in a very good seat here. Nice flexible draft here. Feels good. Archaeologist feels good in this deck. Salvo also feels decent with the amount of cheap instants and sources we have to surge it. And cheap creatures. Go for the Salvo. Scytheclaw Raptor. Get those stats out. Cloudfin Raptor. Super efficient flyer. Fall of the Hammer is kind of inconsistent removal. Unless you're like heroic. I've got some solid removal already. I like Rimrock Knight in this deck quite a bit. Being the creature and the spell for prowess. Murmuring Mystic. Also 3 power for the evolve of the Cloudfin Raptor. If I were splashing, Wyvern would be pretty good because we've got a lot of flyers, but I don't think I'm splashing. More Rimrock Knights, let's go. The more the merrier. The whole team. Start cutting slide runners. We'll get enough of them. Maybe a Nimbus Naiad is also our next most mediocre card in the deck. Even without any heroic cards in the deck, just throwing a Wicked Roll onto a flyer feels pretty decent. I was pretty impressed with this in our Rakdos deck, so like throwing in a Witch's Mark here over like a 3rd Boulder Salvo. Got the Scatter to the Winds to come back. That's going to be awesome if we flood out. Go 16 lands for this deck. Run the curve like this. It's looking wonderful. Probably cut a Mizium Skin, though. Work this curve up a little higher. Throw one of these in over the Mizium Skin. Archaeologist as an option, but we're really aggressive here. I don't think we want the high toughness, just card, draw card. I don't know if another Scab is better than anything else here. Probably not. A million slide runners in the sideboard. Alright, we've got a full deck here. Ooh, another Witch's Mark. I might actually run 2 of those. Also helps the mana base be more consistent, running less lands. Discard non-land to draw 2. I think we might be aggressive enough, plus with the double Witch's Mark, to cut 2 lands here and go for a 15-lander. That might be overkill, but I like going for that. Going really, really aggressive Izzet spells. Sounds super fun to me. 9 blue cards, 16 red. 1 more red than blue sources. I still need double blue for scatter. I still want that blue pretty early. Yep, go 7-8 here. Scourge is going to be real hard to cast. A 15 land deck means only 8 red sources. It's better to cut a Scourge, play a 16th land, but we will gamble here. Keep it in here. Jam some creatures, get a bunch of flyers out, bunch of really efficient removal to keep the path clear. Try to tempo our opponents out of the game. Looks like a real spicy, real strong deck, and I'm super excited to see how it does. So without further ado, let's hop into the gameplay. All right, here we are on the play for game 1. We get to be mono red aggro with this hand, so let's just go for it. Just jam here. I feel like we probably just jam out the Rimrock Knight, get rid of its summoning sickness, and start jamming in damage. But the ability to Boulder Rush and then surge out a Boulder Salvo later does feel pretty appealing. Wild Slash the Swift Spear. Let me keep the Rimrock Knight. Let's go. I'll get 3 damage instead of 1. sad day for our opponent. There's land 3. Come on out, Gear Crafter. This hand is really awkward now, though, because we drew a second Boulder Salvo and no blue source, so these are really stuck in our hand. They are going to be impossible to surge, and thus they're going to be impossible to cast. So just a complete stack of bricks in our hand. Well, now we're one land away from being able to cast everything in the hand. A single island, and we are back off to the races. That should be a really good draw, because then I could play Scab and Surge or Boulder Salvo in the same turn. Goreclaw, hello. Oh my god, let's go. Heartpiercer Manticore for 1 blocker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kill the 1 blocker. Kill the opponent. Exact lethal here. Is it aggro enough? Well, it was in game 1. That is 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are on the play for game 2. This hand could be an issue, because I have multiple 4-drops I need to get to with only 2 lands in the hand, but I can Gust of Wind as long as I've got a Cloudfin Raptor on board, which draws me another card, slows my opponent down, cycles me towards the land that I need. And our 4-drops are our strongest cards in the deck. Murmuring Mystic and Pia, Nikira, and Nalar are both insane threats. So if we can get there, we are really going to get there. Oh, we're back on Capenna. Let's go. That's a great draw. Actually, a tiny bit awkward with Cloudfin Raptor because it's going to make it harder to evolve. But, I mean, I need the mana, so. We've essentially lost 1/1/1/1 counter worth of value and just got a Wicked Roll instead. Whereas, like, if I played this after I've played all my creatures, then I could make an even bigger Cloudfin Raptor. Yeah, P and Kieran are pretty bad with Raptor, but Mystic's great with it. Zephyr Winder's going to get it up to 2/3 stats on the next attack. That's pretty big. Wild Slash Maraptor. Devour Flesh, sure. It's better for me than if they Wild Slashed it. I get some life out of the deal. If we top deck a red source, I'll start with P and Kieran here, but obviously if I can't cast them, Murmuring Mystic is a fine substitute. Blood Tithe Harvester. Give them another blood token if I bounce that. don't want to do that. But I also really want to draw my card and tax them some mana. We'll see how this plays out. Alright, hitting the red source, I don't have to do that. So I won't. No! They took the bluff. Ooh, alright. Spicy Harvester. Okay, now a Gust of Wind is decent. Just bounce the Night Howler. Force a recast of that. And draw towards my Scourge mana. And then the Wild Slash for the Harvester. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 by sacking an artifact. I guess the Night Howler is going to be pretty big now, but I get another flyer, and most of my damage is in the sky anyway, so. Yeah, this game was pretty insane. Murmuring Mystic plus P and Cure and Nalar, and our opponent just didn't cast too many spells. Super gross stuff. We are 2-0 heading into game 3. Alright, here we are for game 3. This hand could potentially flood out, but we're on a 15 land deck here. So I think keeping a 4-lander is slightly safer than usual. We'll see though. It's got a solid curve now, drawing into the Slide Runner. Swift Spear into Slide Runner, and then just play some good interaction. Well, Boulder Salvo was a little questionable, but Anchor to the Aether is certainly good interaction. Okay, Oligarch has arrived, and that's annoying, because it is horrible to trade into that. They end up just up a 1/1 flyer out of the deal. Get that Spirit token when it dies. Our opponent is on Esper. Blue, white, and black. And still Esper after another Guildgate here. No plot twist. Basilica Screecher. Alright, let's anchor the Oligarch to the Aether then. Or do I slam down Scytheclaw Raptor? This might be wrong, but the Oligarch just really annoys me, so I'm going to make them recast it and make it annoy them too. Okay, 4th mana next turn's pretty important. 5th mana after that, not so much. But worst case scenario, I can Witch's Mark this away if it's really going to be irrelevant. Yeah, I'll actually draw into that. That's probably fine. And we could go Witch's Mark plus Salvo, discarding this mountain. Or I can just Scytheclaw Raptor. Okay, Witch's Mark plus Salvo leaves them with a single 1/1 flyer up. Witch's Mark the Slide Runner because it's got the lower toughness and no prowess triggers. Plus Trample is better to get bigger. There's a million reasons to Witch's Mark the Slide Runner. Oh my god, we just double Witch's Mark instead. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Yeah. Super beefy. Oh, it can't get a new roll. Never mind. It can't get a new roll, so we just spread them out. Okay, this is the one potential flaw to this plan. Is if I don't hit another basic, then I can't Surge the Salvo next turn. I can't go Raptor plus Salvo Surge, which was the plan. To still be able to Salvo. Oh my god, no blocks? Go to 7? They are planning some major extortion, I guess. No blocks. Take another 2. I mean, I guess they only could have stopped 4 damage, but they could have stopped 4 damage there, gotten the Spirit token, used that Spirit token to stop another 4 from Swift Spear later. The hand must be really good at potentially stabilizing. Dang, yeah, we didn't hit land 5, so I don't get to Raptor plus salvo here. I can Zephyr Winder salvo. That's still pretty fine. Oh man, yeah, no land to trigger landfall is also rough. So I kind of want to salvo the Screecher and then get flyers. Yeah, I guess that's not that great because they do get a flyer out of the Oligarch anyway. Yeah, no, so we just Slide Runner, salvo the Oligarch. So they have to double block to kill somebody. Double block the Slide Runner here. Lose their board, go to 2 life. Because 3 from Swift Spear plus 1 from the Wicked Roll. Okay, instead they're just going to lose the 1/1 and go to 3. So we get to keep the Slide Runner. Basilica Screecher has an extort trigger, but they're going to choose not to extort this Pilgrim's Eye. So they need 2 mana up for whatever they're doing, which is Cartel Aristocrat. Not extorted as well. They have 3 blockers up. I think off of Slide Runner Tramples alone, if I hit a land, they're pretty dead. So I just Gust of Wind. Gust of Wind and see if I hit a land, but this might already be lethal. Because they have 3 total toughness. Yeah, that's already lethal. Just Gust of Winding. Don't even need the landfall trigger. That might have already been dead on board. We had 5 trampling power. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toughness. They could have stopped all the trample and taken 2. I guess they could have put the 1/1 on the 2 there. They could have actually just taken 1 damage, I think. So yeah, stop literally all of that, and then stop 4 of the 5 trample. Yeah, they could have taken 1 and been at 2. They were definitely not dead on board, but they were still in a really rough spot. Either way, really, really good showing from our deck there. Opponent was a little bit stuck on mana, and we just eat them up there before they can really stabilize. We are 3-0 heading into game 4. I don't have any flyers for this Gust of Wind. That makes me a little bit sad, because it is so much better at just 2 mana. But I like starting with Slide Runner and then just having a bunch of interaction as we work our way up to a Scourge of Valkus. Uh-oh. 2 draws, 0 lands drawn so far. Still haven't hit turn 3 yet, so could still potentially not miss a land drop if we hit a land off our 3rd draw. Okay, we did not hit a land off our 3rd draw. And that's going to be really bad because the Gates matchup, aggro versus Gates, you really have to hit the ground running and get in underneath them before they get all their mana set up. And yeah, I mean, if I just miss land drops for the rest of this game, they're already set up and we just lose. I think this was a really reasonable 2-lander though, with this great interaction potentially. We just drew more uncastable spells instead of lands. They've got double Guild Summon. We are 4 for 4 on just failing to find any of the 13 lands left in here. Might have been better to hold up Scatter. Probably not, with only 2 power on the board. Unless they have exactly a Dragon Lord. What can you do? Okay. When I say unless they have exactly a Dragon Lord, I mean unless they have some insane 6-drop creature. Which the guild decks have like a few, but usually it's just a ton of like removal and some decent blockers, and then like 2 or 3 massive win cons like that. Get out of my deck, Swift Spear. Okay. Despite the super rough mana, We have gotten them to 8, so now we're just playing for a slightly less embarrassing loss. Master of Waves is insanely good against our deck. Oh my god. Because I was going to say protection from red means we're never killing that, but I can bounce it to their hand for now. But we just drew a Wild Slash after hitting them to 2. Do we win this game? In what world do we win this game? Yeah, full tap out, massive board. They've drawn over half their deck. Oh my god, and then just, oops, I win. Okay, I guess this deck is actually unbeatable secretly, and we are 4-0 heading into game number 5. Game number 5, super reasonable start here. We are on the draw. We've got that Swift Spear to just immediately get the ball rolling. Got the Anchor for the bounce, Gearcrafter for an even wider board. And once we've got the Gearcrafter out, the Gust of Wind only costs 2, which is just an insanely good deal. There's the Cloudfin Raptor. That is a solid card to Wild Slash, so I think I'll do that and get the Prowess trigger. Alright, no blocks. Prowess trigger. Technically better to give them the opportunity to throw their Cloudfin under the bus, so that's why we waited till the blocker step. Because if they wanted to chump block 1 damage there, they were more than welcome. Okay. Anchoring a Cloudfin Raptor after it's got some counters on it will be really frustrating for our opponent. Because Cloudfin Raptor is really bad if it's like the last creature that you play. And we're obviously like permanently getting rid of a bunch of counters that they spent time loading up. Alright, 1/4 Archaeologist is actually kind of a problem. Gearcrafter doesn't get to do anything then. And it's not the kind of card we want to bounce at all, ever. Because it has a solid enter effect. So let's Gust the Raptor so I can get in the sky. And if I draw another blue source, I'll play Zephyr Winder, and if I don't, I'll play Slide Runner. Okay, Boulder Salvo. I'll do that instead. Solid draw. Sure. You can tap my creatures, and I'll just hit you next turn. That works too. Tome-bound Lich. Okay, slightly less good creature to slap back on top of their deck than the Cloudfin Raptor, but it costs them 3 more mana to recast it, so it is going to soak up a lot of their mana next turn, replaying that. And I need to get out of the way to get damage in. I will keep that. Put them to 10. And there's the concession from our opponent. That is 5-0 heading into game number 6. Alright, here we are for game 6. Super solid hand now. I was going to say it's a decent hand. Now we got double Zephyr Winder, so if there's nothing we want to Gust of Wind turn 3. Just keep playing Winders. Wow. Alright, we're drawing really well, because now I can play Winder and Wild Slash in the same turn. Really mana efficient turn 3. Harvester's ability is Sorcery Speed. So I'm perfectly happy to slash it here while they can't use it. It's a potential missed 1/1 from Murmuring Mystic, but it's worth the tempo. That works fine too. They still just trade Blood Tithe Harvester 1/1 into one of our flyers. And now I've gotten rid of a Mizim skin as well, so it's like a 2-for-2 trade. Oh, they don't trade it into a flyer still. Double gate for the Ubulsar Gatekeepers? That's really, really good. Very lucky opener for our opponent. Having 2 gates on your board turn 4 means 50% of the lands you've drawn have been gates. So unless they have more than like 8 gates in their deck, which isn't super likely, that was a real good draw. But speaking of real good draws, we just top-decked P and Kieran Nalar, which is stupid good. Okay. I am incredibly fine with that trade. I would have been way less happy if they blew up Zephyrwinder than if they blew up P and Kieran. Like, they have a fine ability letting me sack those Thopters for the 2 damage, but what's so good about them is the fact that they come with such an army in a can for so cheap. Sure, you can get another land. So that I can kill the sturdier flyer. And I would like to top deck a basic, then I can Murmuring Mystic plus Boulder Rush off of our Rimrock Knight. That'll be a very good turn. Maybe they do have like 8 guild gates, because there's the 3rd one they've just discarded. With another Blood Tithe Harvester. Great card is great. Alright, we didn't hit a land. Just a little tragic. They've only got 2 cards in hand here. Well, 1 card in hand outside of the swamp. Could still get there with Murmuring Mystic Flyers. Archaeologist does some digging for removal, and immediately finds it. Obnixlus's Cruelty for Murmuring Mystic. Excellent draw. Just sequence our cards perfectly imperfectly, and hit the land 1 turn after would have been really good. To guarantee us another flyer here. It's pretty frustrating. Okay. We're only slightly losing the race, because each player is taking 2 a turn. But one of these slide runners trades into the Harvester. So that it is just I take 2 from Gatekeepers, they take 2 from Flyers, I take 2 from Gatekeepers. So we're in a top deck war here where our opponent is slightly favored. They're a little ahead on life and they have a blood token. Okay. Now we need to draw really good to win. Possessed Scab is incredible. 3/2 plus Obnoxious's Cruelty. If I Witch's Mark and choose to put a Wicked Roll on one of my cards, if they respond with Obnixious Cruelty and target whatever I'm creating the Wicked Roll on, they counter this whole card. Because if you target something with the Wicked Roll part, there's only one legal target. And if you fizzle the only legal target, the whole spell doesn't resolve. It's really weird with the way it's worded. It looks like it wouldn't work that way. But from experience playing Wilds of Eldraine, the whole spell will be countered if I do that. So I can't put a Wicked Roll on anything now because of that. Or else they fizzle the whole spell. That's pretty awkward. Yeah, the Rimrock Knights are so bad against the Cruelty. Possessed Scab was... Well, I guess it's less Possessed Scab, and just hitting the Cruelty in the first place was the really, really big issue. Because it just made the Scab so much better, too. Yeah, if I ever try to Boulder Rush, they just kill my creature and counter Boulder Rush, and by countering Boulder Rush, the whole Rimrock Knight goes into the grave as well. I can't block with one creature and then Boulder Rush, or they just Obnixious Cruelty and kill both my Flyer and my Rimrock Knight. Oh my god. Just the comedy of errors outside of our control this game. They have the flash creature as well. Maybe I should have just slammed down a Rimrock Knight at that point. I probably should have. Just given up on Boulder Rush. Yeah, it doesn't matter though, because then even if I played both of them, one of them gets blocked, they take 3 and survive, and then kill me. Alright, well, yeah, we lose those. 5-1, heading into game number 7. Alright, here we are for game 7. Definite mulligan. And that is a keeper. Witch's Mark towards the Scourge, maybe? You know, this is pretty sketchy, but I really want red sources, so I'm going to ditch the second blue, actually, and keep both of these card draw spells towards hitting more red sources for Scourge. Kind of have to start with Zephyrwinder. Slide Runner is the better way to start if we naturally draw into all the lands over time, but Zephyrwinder giving us the option to Gust of Wind is pretty important. One of which is marked pretty badly, but if they have an instant to kill Zephyrwinder in response, they counter the whole thing if I put the counter on it. If I put the roll onto it, probably attack first. Okay, I'm doing the Arena cheaty face way to do this, which is attack first to see if Arena does any stops. And if there are no stops, then it means they're pretty unlikely to have just instant speed, shoot a creature or something, and then we can put the roll on. So technically this was 1 less damage this way, but it was much safer than just going for it, because then if we got Wild Slashed, we wouldn't have drawn the cards at all. Okay. Now we need to Gust of Wind, because we really need to hit mana, and we really need that Thief to not hit us. That's not mana, but we're a card closer. Chasm Skulker. Dragon Mantle. Alright, Wild Slash looks real. Chasm Skulker is still a really big deal in the mirror match, because the squids are island walking, so we just can't block them at all. But we can stop it from getting any better. Oh, it's for each counter on it, not... Okay. It's not as big of a deal as I thought. I thought it was for its power and toughness they would get a squid. but it's just for the number of counters. That's nice then. Just a single island walker is not the end of the world. Okay. They're definitely making it scarier. Now we are still taking 2 unblockable damage a turn. Let's go. That's a mana. All flyers all day. Untap the Cloudfin. I can block the Jessian Thief with that, and if they don't prowess trigger, it does not die, and they don't draw a card, and if they do prowess trigger, I'm only losing a Cloudfin Raptor and not a Zephyr Winder. Unless they use removal on a Zephyr Winder. But the important part here is stopping the card draw without inherently putting an important creature at risk. Okay. Alright, well, Illusory Angel is kind of a nightmare. Gonna have to get a Scourge out to attack past that. We made it to Pian Kirin, so that is pretty excellent. But that Angel is certainly stopping us from winning right now. Another flying blocker. Rimrock Knight, you say. Might actually be really scary with Slide Runner. Trample. Because I only need to find a way to deal 3 to my opponent to finish them with Pian Kirin sacking both Thopters. I need to be able to deal 3 to my opponent and keep all of my Thopters on board afterwards to win. But if I can do that, I can fling both Thopters at my opponent for 4 damage total. I don't think I need to hit a land to actually threaten good Slide Runner attacks. Because, like, they just block with Thopter Engineer and then I Boulder Rush for 1 more damage. Like, that's just not good. I don't think that's good enough to matter. Okay, it does do enough damage to me that it'll matter, so I'll have to trade this other Slide Runner. But I think I need to hold the Scatter for scarier threats. Oh, okay. I have 6 damage now. But I still don't have the landfall on Slide Runner. If Slide Runner connects for a single point of damage, they're at 6, and then I slash them to 4, and then I Pia them to 2 and then to 0. That's 1 single point of damage. What is happening to you, Rimrock Knight? You need to go home. Ah! Counter plus get a 3/3. Jesus. Okay. Then we lose the game. By like a land drop, basically, we lose this game. I mean, I can slash the squid and try to play a much longer game here, but if I slash the squid, I no longer have 6 out of 7 damage to their face. I hate Magic the Gathering sometimes. It's just too much. Scourge is also the 7th damage to face. I've missed the land drops so far at this point that we're on like weighted coin flips towards drawing lands. Right? We're at like more than a 50% chance of lands. Not much higher than 50. But whatever. At this point, screw it. All in. If I top deck a land, I win. That's the plan. Never mind. Because I think I have to scatter that. And if I scatter that, I don't win off a top deck land because I don't have the mana to shoot them for 5. Eight life. They shoot the Zephyr Winder, I guess. Take 2. Block, shoot them for 2. Block, I take 2, 3, 4. No, we live this. They're just gonna have like a second scatter to the winds or something. Oh, it's blue mana! All right, here we are for game number 8. We are 5-2 right now. Excellent, super positive record no matter what happens. So we're YOLOing the mono red hand, so keep the 7-card mono red hand. Top deck the only double blue spell in the whole deck. Let's go, baby. Nothing better than 5-0 into 5-3. I'm killing that thing. It's going to gain them life throughout this game. It's also a flying blocker, and a lot of our deck is good at flying threats. So clearing that out, being mana efficient feels pretty good. We are playing against blue-black, so we have the coolest swamps ever. Sick Badlands reprint. There's Fell Stinger, so our opponent's up a card, getting a draw 2 spell here, but they shoot themselves in the face to do it. And I have 7 power on this board with 2 removal spells. I could cast both of these next turn off the Surge. So I'll be really happy if they just play like a solid blocker here, rather than a good removal spell. Be kind of sad if they just like kill the Raptor. Yeah. Ooh, baby. Our 3rd blue spell. Let's go. There's Archaeologist for the solid blocker, and it draws another Obnixilus's Cruelty. Alright, this matchup seems pretty awful. Obnixilus's Cruelty, Dinrova Horror style control. They probably have the 5 mana 3/2 that picks up an instant sorcery or creature from their grave. Alright. This hand may have panned out really horribly. We drew pretty bad, but this matchup is pretty unwinnable in the first place. I think our first 2 losses were where things could have potentially gone differently. I think each time we basically had our opponent at 1 life for our first 2 losses. It's so sad. But we still got a great record out of this deck. We got the 5-0 to start it off, so we're still going to be in the money today. Treasure Cruise, draw 3. Yeah, just miles ahead in card advantage. They did have to exile their whole graveyard for that, so if they do have the scab thing, it's not going to be that insane. I think we just go to our turn and then we... What do I do? Nantuko Husk makes the salvo so awkward. So I like Wild Slash the Raptor. They could sack... I can kill the Raptor and the Husk. Yeah, no, I can kill them both. Wait, no, I can't. Okay, well, I hit the blue source anyway, so I'm fine. That's good. But I was trying to like math that out. I'm like, I could slash that and then salvo the Husk. But no, if I slash the other thing first... Ooh, I hate having to ditch that, but I'm pretty sure I do. Anyways, if I slash the Raptor first and then try to salvo the Husk, they could sack the Raptor to the Husk in response to me slashing it, because it's going to die anyway. Then the Husk is a 4-4, and then I try to shoot the 4-4, and they sack the Archaeologist, make it a 6-6. So I could kill the other 2 creatures, but not the Husk if I do it that way. I could Wild Slash the Husk, which they could then respond by sacking Archaeologist. And then when I could salvo the Husk to kill that, but then they still have the Raptor, or I could salvo the Raptor, but then they still have the Husk. So I didn't have a way to cast both in one turn and guarantee I kill the Raptor and the Husk there. Unless I'm completely missing something, which is possible, because things get real confusing when a Husk is on board and it's all damage-based removal. Another Archaeologist. Absolute brick wall over there. You're very late, Essence Scatter, but that's okay, because if you arrived any sooner, I wouldn't have had blue mana. So what are you going to do? So I can salvo the Nantuko Husk, and if they want to keep it, they have to sacrifice both Archaeologists. So I think I actually kill it here. Cool. Way less cool. The fashionably late double blue for Scatter. After turns of passing back and forth. They're gonna cast some spell I really need to scatter. The one time I finally don't hold it up. Yep. Alright, well, we're super dead. 5 and 3, it is. Rough ending. One of the worst feelings in the world to 5-0 into 0-3, or just XO into 0-3. So that is a massive bummer, but looking back at things objectively from a third-person perspective, this is a pretty excellent draft, or this was a pretty excellent draft. I think it was really fun the way that things ended up during the draft, where we speculated on so many different archetypes. There were so many different paths we could have been on by the end of the draft, and locking in and solidifying into blue-red was probably the last thing I would have expected with the way the whole first pack went. So it was a really interesting draft that still ended up with a tremendously powerful deck. So I'm really happy with how the draft went itself. But there was some rough stuff during the gameplay there. The first two losses were really close, so there might have been some line somewhere where we could have changed things and gotten the extra point of damage we needed in either of those games to potentially turn those into victories. And again, 5 and 3 is still a really nice record. So looking back at the deck, looking at how it played out and everything, I think this was quite a good draft. It was quite a good deck. You just can't always make it to the end there. Some user error, some variance. It all happens. Still a really cool, really fun draft today with a pretty strong deck here. That is going to be 5 and 3 for the final record, leaving this event with more gems than we paid to enter at 1,600 gems and 4 packs of Pioneer Masters as the prize out. But before I end today's video, I would like to mention, since this is the holiday season, this is Christmas week. Happy holidays, everybody. There is only going to be a video every other day this week, so don't freak out. I am alive and fine if there is not a daily upload. Outside of work, I'm going to be spending time with my family this week, so I will not have the time to record, edit, upload more Magic videos for you all this week. But we will be back into the full swing of things when the Bloomborough Arena Direct hits this weekend, and that's going to be super, super sweet. I will be playing that hopefully until I win my 2 Bloomborough booster boxes, because we've won 2 boxes in every other Arena Direct that I played. I didn't play the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Arena Direct because I think it was at the same weekend as something else that was going on that was important. That might have been doing like an Arena Open and an Arena Direct at the same time, or a Qualifier Weekend and an Arena Direct, or it might have been a family thing. I don't remember. I couldn't make it to the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Arena Direct, but every other one, we got a Horizons box and we got our 2 Foundations boxes. So let's try to get our 2 Bloomborough boxes this weekend, this time around. Anyways, that whole spiel about what's coming up out of the way, let's just go ahead and end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching the video. I hope you all have a great holiday season. If you want to see some more videos, as always, you can do all the things that make the YouTube algorithm send you more of this stuff. Leave a like, a comment, a subscribe, any of that good stuff. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.